Dr. Hager, would you mind the invocation of the pledge?
Sure. Heavenly Father, come to your prayer today, Lord. We thank you for the opportunity to be here today, Lord. We thank you for the day that you've given us. Lord, I ask you to be with us during this meeting. We conduct business for this institution. Be with each person that's here, Lord. Lord, once again, we thank you for the many blessings you've bestowed upon us. Lead us, guide us, and direct us in all things that we do. All these things for we ask in your precious name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Motion by Dr. Richardson to approve the agenda as presented. Dr. Hager seconds. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Consideration and approval of minutes of the October board meeting.
Making motion, we accept them as presented.
Trustee Featherston makes a motion to present them. Dr. Hager seconds. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? None? Let's move to the consideration of the college financial report. Ms. Eubank?
Let's turn to financial report on page 6. This is comparing this fiscal year as of September the 30th to the previous fiscal year at the same time. Very similar to what you saw last month. We are slightly behind on tuition and fees. That's results of our enrollment pattern, so that's very much as expected. Other categories following suit, and then in federal grants, and we'll see this every month for the whole fiscal year because we had such an influx last fiscal year of that federal funding related to the pandemic, and of course that's winding down this year, so that category is always going to lag behind the previous year. On the next page, then looking at our expenses, very comparable to last year on those. And then on page 8, looking at revenues minus expenses, behind last year's, but again, because of that influx of federal cash in the previous fiscal year. So then turning on page 11 to our budget versus actuals as of, these are preliminary October numbers. So this captures just the very beginning of our spring enrollment registrations. So tuition and fees are at like 67% of our budgeted, so that's a really good place to be sitting there. We did plan for that decreased enrollment, so you can see that reflected there. Other categories, very similar. Non-operating revenue, you'll see shoot up in January when we begin to collect property taxes as the primary item in that category. And then on the bottom half of the page, looking at our expenses, using 33% of our fiscal year as kind of a guide, you can see most of those categories are right on target. Scholarships and some of the other categories do run just a little bit ahead of the curve in the first half of the fiscal year just because of the way some of the timing of large payments happen. And then following that on page 13, looking at our capital budget, our big projects that we've seen thus far is the parking lot improvements you see there in the campus improvements category. And then the improvements that we've been making at the Westwood Event Center to update that, and some refresh on our fleet vehicles, and some improvements on our athletic facilities that are just a continuation of some that we started in the last fiscal year that just finished up in the beginning part of this fiscal year over the ball fields. Following that, then looking on page 16 at our cash position, very much as expected for this time of the year. Our operational cash, we'll see another influx on that in January, well actually probably early February, when we do financial aid again for the spring term. So that's very much normal for this time of the year. We did not have any changes in our certificates of deposits, and we do not have any bids outstanding to report on. Any questions?
the music department's fall showcase. With us today is Professor Cindy White to talk to us about that.
Hello. We had our fall student showcase recently, October 25th. For many of the students on stage, it was their first time on stage because we have a large number of entering first-year students. So it was a good experience for them. We had a large audience with friends, family, students, colleagues, and community members. Again, it felt like uncharted territory when your performers are all new, and part of the way you spread the word is word of mouth. We weren't sure if they knew to do that, but we had a nice audience. Students performed well, enjoyed their time on the stage, and we presented a variety of pieces from Broadway to classical and jazz.
So it was very well done, and a great way, a great alternative method to do recital. It
Yes.
made it really fun. The audience response was really great.
We try to mix a little bit of theatrics with your classical music, so we keep people entertained.
Nice to see a big group of music students.
Thanks.
Thank you, Professor White. Then I'm going to ask Miss Gail Hensley if she'll come forward and talk about open house from the University Center.
Hi. We had two open houses last month. We had a Tuesday and a Wednesday one, just trying to catch all the on-campus students. And so with the partnership, Southeast Missouri State, Central Methodist, and Hannibal Grange, we all come together for our open houses and provide pizza and donuts and cookies and things to get the students to smell that and come by and see where we're at. We also do a drawing for some gift cards. And so what the students do is they fill out a little form like this, and they go to each office and we stamp them. That way they get to see where each office is and who's in it, and which universities are here. And so then that's their drawing for their gift card. So we had about 75 students together and about 25 faculty staff also. So it was a good event, good events. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. And then I'm going to ask, I believe Ms. Corman is going to, or did I get confused?
No, I'm not from the tree.
Murder mysteries now.
Oh.
Not trunk or treat.
I can read the picture.
No, wait, not a murder, sorry.
Okay, so the Oak Grove trunk or treat, there's two trunk or treats, sorry. So our agriculture economics students went and helped Oak Grove School District do their trunk or treat. It's one of the many ways that we get out in the community and do events in partnership with local schools and other nonprofits. So that went really well, and everybody had a great time. And then our leadership students under Dr. Mairead Ryan Anderson and her group did a trunk or treat here on campus that was well attended and well did. It was a fun night despite the weather. So it got rained out about halfway through from all of the weather coming in. Now, the murder mystery dinner. Back on track with what I thought.
So Dr. Malone, who works here at the college, he was an integral part of this. He was originally planning to come speak to you all, but he had a follow-up doctor's appointment today. So I'm sharing the information. This was something to fund our partnership with the Boys and Girls Club College Kids program. Historically, that program, the endowment trust funds about $5,000. were appropriately over the top and hilarious. I think their interactions with the audience and characters sold the whole thing. So while people were getting their food, they were walking through, checking, bumping into you, and really establishing who their characters were. Dr. Malone said that really it was a very low key for them. They had about a dozen rehearsals, and they spent most of Saturday afternoon actually in the room, really getting a feel for how everything was going to work. We had a couple EMT students who also volunteered and took Dr. Pepper out on the stretcher that evening. As a result of it, everyone could vote on who they thought the killer was, and everyone who got it correct got a certified detective certificate, and then we did a drawing of one of those people who got a 2-liter of course, Dr. Pepper. So once again, great event. We heard several good pieces of feedback from this. Dr. Malone's already working on securing a script for next year, and we are planning to move forward and make it bigger and better next year.
Thank you, Ms. Reynolds. Now I'm gonna ask Carrie to come forward and talk about First Friday Coffee.
So we had our very first Friday Coffee back on November 4th, which is a couple of Fridays ago. And if you're not familiar, this is a Chamber of Commerce event where they have one every month, and the hosting kind of just rotates. And so it's an event for the business people in the community to come together and network and see a little bit more about the business that's hosting it that particular month. We had about 75 attendees, and so that is a really great turnout for the event. And it was great because people really seemed to hang around. They didn't just come and eat breakfast. They hung around, they talked to people, we talked to people, we made connections with alumni who weren't really currently on our radar, so that's always a good thing to make those connections. We also had some U-books laid out on the table, as well as some giving brochures and the tenant brochures, which has our whole season in it. So we tried to kind of also steadily tell them about some things that we have going on. Overall, it was a great event, and like I said, it was really well attended.
Thank you. And then on November 8th, we celebrated First Generation Day. So as everyone knows, we have a very large number of first generation students that come to us. And this day was designed around first generation students that are either faculty or staff putting out advice. And we did this as a social media event. And just being out there to encourage first generation students, hey, you'll be at home here, go ahead, involve yourself, take that next step. And we really got some great comments on social media, some great stories from alumni that were first generation that really shared their stories that were meaningful. It was a pretty big hit, something that will continue. And now I'm going to ask Professor Steve Lewis if he'll come forward and talk about Mamma Mia. Last week was the opening. We've still got this weekend to go.
Indeed. So I'm directing Mamma Mia. It's a big hit on the Broadway stage. You're probably familiar with the movie. We've got 20 cast members as well as another 10 or so crew members who are part of this. They include students, faculty and staff members here at the college, and a large number of community members. It's a very successful show. It's turned out particularly well, and as Dr. Payne said, we're in the middle of our 2-weekend run right now. Our attendance has not been what we want it to be this first weekend so far, and so we're hoping the positive word of mouth that is out of the community will increase our numbers next weekend. And so I would certainly invite everyone here who has not seen the show yet to bring a whole bunch of your friends and family members with you and come see it. It's really an enjoyable production.
I will echo that. Dr. Mary Beth Payne and myself and a few other people came to see it opening night. It's a wonderful production. The cast has done a wonderful job. Steve, your direction was well thought out, well orchestrated. I know we have a trustee at the table who came to see it on Friday night and was singing along. So,
Am I correct in remembering that you were in this show once?
I was, when the Sykeston Little Theater did it a few years ago.
So it brought back wonderful memories.
Yes, it's hard to contain myself. And Alex Jameson, by the way, was hilarious.
He's always great.
so any questions about Mamma Mia? So grab a friend, get a ticket this weekend. It's closing weekend. It's your last chance. It'll be life-changing.
Could be.
Thank you, Professor Lewis. Then Kennett Trivia Night on November 10th was another successful trivia night. Raised right at $3,000 for TRC Kennett scholarships. This money goes in particular to students to fill gap scholarships. So if you have a student that needs a supply or gets a flat tire, it's frequently those things that just happen to students. And we found over the years that it could be something very small. It's very easy to solve that makes the difference between that student continuing and that student choosing to not complete their semester. So great help. I want to put out a special word for Mr. Matt Poole. He was formerly one of our Alumni Star recipients. Does a wonderful job and a lot of time and effort putting on this event and organizing it and making sure it goes well. And then November 14th, we had ACAD students volunteered at the Poplar Bluff Animal Shelter, and we're going to ask the teacher of that class, Ms. Heather Foreman, to speak of that.
All right, so this was Monday. We had a group of students from our ACAD, which is our Student Success course. At this point in the semester, they are challenged to do a group project. So things they've done before is like a promotional video. We volunteered in the community, so I gave them the options of what they wanted to do, and they chose to go to the Poplar Bluff Animal Shelter. So we had 8 students attend that, and then we did a reflection today in class about what they thought about it, what they expected, what they saw, heard, and smelled. And if it was, if it met their expectations. And they all did a great job. We had an MVP. One of our Lady Raider softball players was our MVP that we voted for. She ended up walking 3 different dogs, and somehow she ended up with the biggest dogs. So it was a great time. They enjoyed it. Got to see the dogs. The dogs were all so excited when we got there. And of course, they're not used to being out and about and being able to be walked. And so the students enjoyed it, and I enticed them with donuts, and also the animal shelter people, I took donuts too. So it was, the dogs enjoyed it, and so did the humans. So.
Anybody?
And I was going to say, and the ones that weren't able to go, I had 3 students who weren't able to leave campus, and so they helped decorate the tree out here, in Westover, the main lobby. So we're able to help around the campus too, since they couldn't go.
Were any dog adoptions accomplished?
We have one possible. So a couple of them, wanted to take some home. I'm always bad about wanting to take one home, but they're all still there today.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Norman. And some upcoming events between now and the end of the year. Dave Fielding will be in the gallery doing an art exhibit. It will be there from November 7th to December 4th. Then we've got a lecture on November 18th on soft skills for business presented by Steve Halter from the Chamber. Our Boy Scout Hackathon is November 19th. It's a partnership with Scouting of America for technology-based activities. We, of course, host that here on campus. Then the music department will have their fall concert on November 22nd, 7 p.m. In the Tennon Center. That's a free show, so bring some people and enjoy a great evening of music. Thanksgiving break is just upon us. No classes November 23rd through the 25th, and the college will be closed November 24th and 25th. Then following that on December 4th is our next Patrons of the Art Show. It's the full theatrical production of A Christmas Carol. That is sponsored by Kissinger and Kirkman Investment Center. one of our long-standing patron sponsors. Tickets $15 each, available online at the Student Accounts Office or at the Tinning Gallery. And then December 9th, 8:30 a.m. will be our employee Christmas breakfast. Held that every year. That's a picture from last year's ugly hat contest, as I recall. And then Christmas break, college will be closed December 19th through January 2nd. And then on January 9th, we will have spring convocation, which will kick off the spring semester, followed by our first day of class for spring of 2023. Enrollment and registration is already underway. First day of class, January 17th. And that, Mr. Chair, is the President's report.
Okay.
And we do have some executive session.
All right. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make a motion to go into
Dr.
executive
Hager
session.
makes it.
Second.
Mr. Featherston seconds it. It's a roll call vote.
Trustee Featherston?
Yes.
Trustee Richardson?
Yes.
Trustee Hager?
Yes.
Trustee Shaw?
Yes. We are in executive session. Is anybody in the break, or are we gonna roll on through? All right, we are back in session. Moving on to items for consideration, discussion, and vote. Consideration, discussion, and vote on the FY 22 annual audit. We had a stimulating conversation about that earlier this morning.
So, Ms. Eubank, anything to add?
No, I'm just happy to present an unmodified, unqualified opinion. All good, all clean.
Having been a member of that audit committee, I feel like it's my duty to make a motion to accept the audit.
Well, thank you, Dr. Hager. Is there anybody who would like to second his glorious motion of accepting the audit as presented?
I will second that.
Thank you, Dr. Richardson. Roll call vote.
Trustee Featherston?
Yes.
Trustee Richardson?
Yes.
Trustee Hager?
Yes.
Trustee Shaw?
Yes. Let's move on to consideration and approval of all personnel action and associated documents.
Make a motion to approve all personnel actions and associated documents as presented.
Motion by Mr. Featherston, second by
I'll second.
Dr. Hager. Let's get a roll call vote again.
Trustee Featherston?
Yes.
Trustee Richardson?
Yes.
Trustee Hager?
Yes.
Trustee Shaw?
Yes. Only thing left I show on the agenda is adjournment. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
So seconded.
All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.
It was good to see you all again. You too. Have a very Merry